The situation in the Middle East is indeed escalating, and the day before, Antony Blinken named the likely timing of an Iranian and Hezbollah attack on Israel. The U.S. Secretary of State convened a conference call to coordinate with close U.S. allies from the G7 countries to try to organize last-minute diplomatic pressure on Iran and Hezbollah to minimize their retaliation. According to him, limiting the impact of Islamist attacks is the best chance to prevent a full-scale war in the Middle East. Blinken emphasized that the United States is convinced that Iran and Hezbollah will retaliate, but he did not specify what form the retaliation will take compared to the attack on Israel on April 13th.
Ізраїлю майже 350 ударних дронів і ракет. А Тель-Авів, Сполучені Штати
and Tel Aviv and the United States and its allies worked together to intercept most of these airborne targets. We don't know the exact time of the attacks, but they could begin in the next 24 to 48 hours, i.e. as early as Monday. The United States is making efforts to break the cycle of escalation by trying to limit Iranian and Hezbollah attacks as much as possible, and then to contain Israel's response. The U.S. Secretary of State asked the G7 foreign ministers to exert diplomatic pressure on Iran, Hezbollah, and Israel to maintain maximum restraint. One of the sources who participated in the phone call said that Blinken seemed disappointed when he informed the ministers about the recent negotiations with Israel on the release of hostages in the Gaza Strip and a ceasefire agreement. He said that before the assassination in Tehran, the White House was, quote, close to a breakthrough, and that a deal is needed now more than ever. In late July, Hamas political leader Ismail Ghani was assassinated in Tehran. According to Western media, he was blown up in the room with explosives by Iranian special forces recruited by the Mossad. Then Hezbollah's military, Fuad Shukra, was killed. Iran and Hezbollah have vowed to attack Israel in retaliation for the killings. The IDF is preparing for a multi-day rocket attack and drone strikes amid these threats and escalating escalation. The United States has begun to build up its military forces in the Middle East, as it claims, for purely defensive purposes. Washington has also called on Iran to soften its retaliation for the assassination of the Hamas leader, but Tehran has refused to comply with this request. So this is the difficult situation in the Middle East. An attack is indeed expected, an Iranian attack on Israel, but all this is still superimposed on the growing threat of a full-scale war between Lebanon and Israel after the shelling of the Dutch Heights by Lebanese Hezbollah. So it looks like this, that an escalation, at the very least, or even a war in the Middle East is imminent, and we are still waiting to see how escalated the next steps will be.
Перебуваємо в очікуванні того, наскільки ескалаційними будуть подальші кроки.